I'll now be answering the questions that I gave hints to in the last video. So question 14, the pilot of an aircraft wants to fly from A to D, so A to D. The aircraft flies from A to E, so 1 degree is off course. Okay, so it's going this way, and this is the plan view. The distance BC is 1 mile, 1 mile. Work out the distance DE. Now I can see that we have similar triangles here, okay? So we've got 1 degrees there, 90 degrees, and then we've got a larger triangle where we have 1 degrees and 90 degrees. Now, this length here is 60, and the corresponding length on the larger triangle is 210. So the scale factor we can find by saying 210 divided by 60, and that gives us 3.5. And now I know that the multiplication that takes me from any length from this smaller triangle ABC to the larger triangle ADE is 3.5. So 1 times 3.5 would give me DE, so it would be 3.5. This next question says, how should the aircraft have turned at C to fly directly towards D? So how should it have turned here to fly directly towards D? Now, we've discussed this already in the previous video, but we said that suppose the aircraft had turned 1 degrees clockwise, it will start flying towards here. Okay, so and it will end up somewhere there. And then suppose we added another degree and made it 2 altogether. So if we were to say another 1 degrees there, then we have the aircraft flying this way. Now, here we said that if this is 1 degrees, inside here is 89, and I know that this angle here is also 89, and this is also a right angle triangle here with BC and this point here. Okay, so this triangle and this triangle would then be similar, and you can see that it would be coming right through there. Now also, it's not just that it's coming this way. We know that that's coming a little bit too far, and we need to have turned a little bit less than 2 degrees and a little bit more than 1 degrees. Okay, so we can see that 1 degrees doesn't do enough for us, and 2 degrees takes us too far off this way. So between 1 and 2 was the answer. So question 16 was to rearrange this equation here, y equals 4 take away 3x over 6 take away 5, to make x the subject. Here I will be rearranging, and I'll be also telling you where you will get the mark. So the first mark comes when you multiply both sides by x take away 5. And then the next mark would be you multiply out the brackets. Then it will be taking the x terms on one side and everything else on the other side. And then finally it will be factorizing and dividing. So first thing, we multiply. So we y times x take away 5 is equal to 4 take away 3x. So this would be worth 1 mark. Then you do yx take away 5y is equal to 4 take away 3x. This is your second mark. Then you isolate the x terms. So you say yx add 3x. And if I was to add 5y to both sides, I would get 4 add 5y here. Okay, so what I've done there was I added the 3x to both sides. I added a 5y to both sides. And now the x terms are on one side. So this is the third mark. And the fourth mark is actually 2 steps. So now we're going to factorize the x. So x and then bracket y plus 3 is equal to 4 plus 5y. Now this is not yet the fourth mark. I need to now divide both sides by y plus 3, and then that will be the last mark. So it will be x is equal to 4 plus 5y over y plus 3. Okay, there are other versions of the correct answer, but this is the way I find easy, and this is the answer that we've got here. So question 17 says, the diagram shows a rectangle inside a semicircle. The rectangle has dimensions 16 centimeters by 6 centimeters, so it's here. Work out the shaded area. Give your answer in terms of pi. So we can see that from the center point, the radius has not been given to us, and it's quite difficult to work out if I think about it like this. But we said that from the center, if I was to go like that, that is also the radius, and we can maybe find that. So rectangles, they have right angles in the corner. Okay, so that might help us. the center is there, and if I make a radius going to the corner of the rectangle, I can see that I've got a right angle triangle. This would be 8 centimeters, which is half of 16, and this would be 6 centimeters. Now, I do recommend that you would write this into your diagram, but do this in pencil, because if you get it wrong, it's very difficult to fix it and to start thinking correctly again. So do it in pencil, and if it is wrong, you can rub it all out. So we have 8 centimeters and 6 centimeters. Now, to find the longest length in a right angle triangle, we have the shorter lengths, we use Pythagoras Theorem. If you did 8 squared, add 6 squared and get 100, that's your first mark. If you square root that and get 10, that's your second mark. And this can be shown in the diagram. You can show that this is 10, and that will be 2 marks already. Okay, so 2 marks here already. So we've got 8 squared plus 6 squared. That's worth 1 mark. That's 100. And then if you said square root of 100, that's your second mark. Okay, and then you're going to say pi r squared. So the radius is 10. So you're going to say pi times 10 squared, but you're going to have to half that because we're looking at a semicircle. So we're going to say pi times 10 squared times a half. And that's your third mark. And the fourth mark is once you've written this out in a simplified form, and also you've subtracted the area of the rectangle. The area of the rectangle will be 16 times 6, which is 60, add 36, which is 96. So we're going to say here, this simplifies to 50 pi. And then we have 50 pi take away 96, and that's 4 marks. Okay, so question 18 says 2 straight lines are shown. So 2 straight lines meaning these ones. B is the midpoint of AC. So B here is the midpoint of AC. And the ratio from TB to BS is 2 to 3. So 2 to 3. Work out the coordinates of T. Now, here, one easy thing we can do right away is they've told us the midpoint of AC is B, so we can find the coordinates of B. And then B happens to be on the line where T, B, and S are. Okay, so, and then I've got a ratio for that, and here it's telling me to find the coordinates of T, so finding B might help with that. Okay, and that does give you your first mark. So to find B, what we're going to do is we're going to add the X coordinates here. So 23 add 15, okay, which is 38. Half of 38 is 19, and then we have 6 add 12, that's 18, and half of that is 9. Okay, now we've got the coordinates of B. Now, when something has been given to us like this in some coordinate axes, X and Y, it's very useful to draw some right angle triangles, okay? Because the right angle triangles, they will be parallel to the y-axis and parallel to the y-axis here, parallel to the x-axis, parallel to the x-axis, and then we know that we can have 2 similar triangles here, okay? So if I was to just roughly put some right angle triangles here, I know what the coordinates of B are. It's 19 and 9, okay? Now, I can find the length from here up to there, because the coordinates of B, or the x coordinate of B is 19, so it's coming up to 19 here, and then we need to go up to 31. So from 19 to 31, or 31 take away 19, gives us 12, okay? So we can say this is 12. Here we've got the y coordinate of 3, so it goes 3 up, and then from 3 we need to get to 9. So to go from 3 to 9, that's 6. Okay, so it's 6 here. Now, if you have these, so either the 12 or the 6, and then you try and get your lengths here, okay, so that will give you the next couple of marks. So here we know that the ratio from TB to BS is 2 to 3. So the ratio of this length to this length is also 2 to 3, because these are similar triangles. And we can say the same about this length and that length, okay? So if I've got 12 here, to find this length here, what we would do is we would divide it by 3 and then times it by 2. Now if I divide by 3 and times by 2, that's the same as saying 2/3 of 12. Okay, so 12 divided by 3 is 4. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. Times that by 2 is 8. Okay, so this length here would be 8. The other one here, so this length, 6 divided by 3 is 2, and then times that by 2, you get 4. Okay, so this gets you your second mark. Either the 8 or the 4 here, either one of them will get you your second mark. Next thing we do is we try and find the coordinates of t now, because now we know t relative to b, we know it relative to s, and we can actually find the coordinates of it. Okay, so if I take the x coordinate of b, which is 19, and I go back 8, that will give me the x coordinate of t. Okay, so 19 take away 8 is the x coordinate of t. That's going to be 11. Okay, the y coordinate of t, well, the y coordinate of b is 9. If I was to go 4 up from that, that will give me 13. So that will be 9 add 4 equals 13. Now, the reason why I wrote this out is so that you don't assume that we always add or we always take away. You look at your diagram and you think, am I going forwards or backwards in x? Am I going up or down in y? Okay, so that's what you need to think about, and then you decide whether or not you're going to add or take away. So finding either the 11 or 13 is your third mark, and then the fourth mark is to say the coordinates are 11 and 13, like that. Okay, question 19 is a cuboid has dimensions x centimeters, so x centimeters, by x centimeters, and by y centimeters. X is increased by 10%, and y is decreased by 20%. Now, to increase anything by 10%, you times it by 1.1. So we can say that these lengths here have both been multiplied by 1.1. Now, if you write 1.1 anywhere, or the 0.8 anywhere, you get your first mark. Okay, so this would be 0.8 here. So 0.8 of y, I should have said. Here, so we can write 1.1 and 1.1, well, 1.1 times x and 1.1 times x and 0.8 times y. Now, when we've got a multiplication like that, we can actually do 1.1 times 1.1 times 0.8 before we do the x times y to find the volume. It's telling us work out and describe the percentage change in the volume of the cuboid. So if we work out what 1.1 times 1.1 times 0.8 is, that will help us see what the percentage change is. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to say 1.1 times 1.1 times 0.8. Okay, this is actually 2 marks so far. You get 1 mark for recognizing either the 1.1 or the 0.8, and the second mark for saying that you're going to multiply these. The third mark would be a correct multiplication of this. Okay, so 1.1 times 1.1, that's the same as doing 11 times 11 and then dividing by 100, which is 1.21. So we actually have 1.21 times 0.8. Okay, and then that multiplication you can do by saying we're going to do 8 times 121 and then dividing by 1,000. Okay, so I'm going to do 8 times 121. Let's write it here. That'll be 8, 6, carry 1, 968. Okay, now the answer to 1.21 times 0.8 would be whatever 968 is divided by 1,000, because we can see that 121 was divided by 100 here, 8 was divided by 10 here, so we need to divide by 100 and then divide by 10. That's the same as dividing by 1,000. Okay, so this would be 0.968. Now we must remember that work out and describe the percentage change in the volume of the cuboid. Now up to here we've got 3 marks, 1 more mark, and we need to describe, is it a percentage increase or a decrease. We can see that if I end up with a multiplier that's less than 1, here we've got 0.968, it's a percentage decrease. And to find that percentage decrease, well, I can say 1 take away 0.968, so I can write down 1 take away 0.968, and that will give me, it's 3.2, 0.32, 0.032. Okay, so I can see that it's going to be 3.2% here. So clearly that is a 3.2% decrease. So here I'm going to have to describe it as 3.2% decrease. So the question was, work out and describe the percentage change in the volume of the cuboid. It's a 3.2% decrease. So question 20 is circle the value of 9 to the power of negative a half. Well, 9 to the power of negative a half is 1 over 9 and to the power of a half, which is square root of 1 over 9. Okay, so it's the square root of that. Now that's going to be a third. Okay, we can see that that's a third. Question 21, expand and simplify. Now you get your first mark for expanding either these two brackets or those two brackets or this bracket with that bracket, and you're allowed one error. Okay, so if you make one mistake, you can still get that first mark. If you had multiplied two brackets correctly, okay, then that is 2 marks. And then the third mark is once you've multiplied the whole thing out and you've simplified. Okay, so let's multiply out these two first. That will give us 4x squared. Take away 10x, add 10x, and take away 25. And I still need to multiply it to 3x plus 7. Okay. This is already 2 marks because this has been done correctly. So it's 2 marks. If there was one mistake here, I would still get 1 mark. Okay, so but because this is correct, it's 2 marks. Now I need to simplify this and multiply it to that to get my final mark. So this is going to be now 4x squared take away 25, and that's going to multiply to 3x plus 7. This is then going to be 12x cubed take away 75x, add 28x squared, and then take away 175. Okay, that doesn't simplify, but it's just neater to write it as 12x cubed plus 28x squared take away 75x, and then take away 175. Okay, so question 22 says write this expression here, which is where we've got some surds, and we've got surds in the denominator as well, in the form a root 2, where a is an integer. Now here we should be not too worried about this. Okay, we should just look at this and simplify it and see if it comes up to something like that. Now the first mark you can get by either simplifying the root 50 or simplifying the root 18. So that could be your first mark. Your first mark could also be to rationalize the denominator here or rationalize the denominator here. Okay. Second mark would come if you've actually rationalized the denominator and actually simplified either one of these two. Okay, and then the third mark is once you've done both of them, and then the fourth mark is showing how that simplifies to something that looks like that. So let's, I'll rationalize the denominator first, so that's the way that I'm going to choose to do it. 26 over root 2 becomes 26 root 2 over 2, okay, and the second one, actually this one, I'm going to simplify the root 18 before I rationalize, otherwise I might need to multiply by big numbers. So here we're going to have 12 over 18 is 9 times 2, so square root of 9 is 3, root 2 is here, plus, and then I'm going to simplify this one as well. 50 is 25 times 2, square root of 25 is 5, and 5 times 2 is 10. Okay, actually I'm going to rewrite this one. I'm going to say 2 times 5 and then times root 2. Okay, so that you can see what I'm doing. Now in the next line I'm going to simplify this. 26 divided by 2 is 13. Here I'm going to rationalize the denominator, and here I'm just going to multiply the 2 and the 5. Okay, so now I'm going to have 13 root 2 take away, so here I'm going to multiply top and bottom by root 2. Okay, so, and also before I do that, I'm going to do 12 divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, so I'll have 4 root 2, sorry, at the top. So here we're going to have 4 root 2 over 2, add 10 root 2. Now I can see that the 4 and the 2, they simplify, and we're going to have 13 root 2, take away 2 root 2, add 10 root 2, and now I can see that I've got terms with root 2, and I can just simplify them. I can collect the like terms here. This is going to be 13, add 10 is 23, take away 2 is 21, so we're going to have 21 root 2 as our answer. Now just quickly go over the marks again. Rationalizing the denominator, either here, or simplifying the root 18 or root 50 gives you your first mark. So this first line, I actually did quite a lot of this, but it's only worth 1 mark. Then I simplified this to that, and that gave me a second mark. Then I had simplified the second one as well, and both of them I had simplified. That's the third mark, and the fourth mark is to collect everything and make it like that. Okay, question 23a. The graph of y equals sine x is shown for 0 to 360, so 0 to 360. On the grid, sketch the graph of y equals sine x take away 1 for 0 to 360. Now, here, we can think of it like, okay, this is already given, which is y equals sine x. This equation here, we can think of it like, we need to find what sine x is, and then take away 1. So, sine x at this point, so sine 0 is 0, and if we take away 1, it will come here. Okay, so this point would come here. Then we have sine x again, so sine 90 is 1, but if I take away 1, it comes to 0. Okay, so that will be 0. Next point, here sine 180 is 0. If I take away 1, it's going to come here. And I can see that here sine 270 was negative 1, take away 1 will come here, and so on. So it's a translation going down, and these will be the points that I definitely know that I need to go through. Now I need to draw a curve, okay, that looks like the sine curve, but just translated 1 down. Okay, so try your best to draw a nice curve. And finish it here. Okay, so question 23b. The graph of y equals sine x is shown again. Okay, on this grid, sketch the graph of y equals negative sine x. So this time I'm going to find what sine x is and then take the negative of that. Okay, so sine 0 is 0, negative of that is still 0, so that stays where it is. Next one, sine 90 is 1, the negative of that is here. Sine 180 is 0, the negative of that is still 0, so that still stays the same. Sine 270 is negative 1, the negative of that is positive 1, and that one will stay where it is. So let's draw the points. The points will go here. This stays where it is. That will go there, and that's here. So this is a reflection in the x-axis, and then again, like this sine graph, I need to try my best to draw a nice curve. And that's worth 1 mark to us. Okay, question 23c. On this grid, sketch the graph of y equals tan x. This is a graph that you should know what it looks like, and just go ahead and draw it. There will be an asymptote at 90. There's another asymptote at 270. You should know that it starts from 0 and goes up like that. It comes up from here, passes through 180, and then goes up again like that, 270, and then it repeats. Okay, so the repeats, meaning that if I was to continue the graph here, it would look like that from 270 to 360. So roughly it goes like that, and then we're going to come up from 90 up to 180, and then try our best to smoothly go up like that, and the last one would go like that. So question 24, a bag contains n beads. 1 bead is black and the rest are white. 2 beads are taken from the bag at random. show that the probability that both beads are white is n take away 2 over n. Again, we're going to try and ignore this, and we're going to try and interpret this and write it in algebra. So we're given a bag contains n beads and then some information afterwards. One bead is black and the rest are white, and there's n beads. 2 beads are taken from the bag at random. Okay, so once the first one's taken, there's n minus 1 left. Show that the probability that both beads are white is n take away 2 over n. Now, the probability that the first bead is white has to be n take away 1, because there is one black bead. Okay, so there's n beads, and if we take away that one black bead, there's this number of white beads left. Now, it was this number of white beads over n beads. Now, if we take out a second bead from the bag, so 2 beads are taken from the bag at random. Now, because we've already taken one, now there will be n minus 2 white beads left. Okay, so now there's going to be n minus 2 white beads left, and the total number of beads is now n minus 1. Okay, now writing either one of these fractions will give you the first mark, and the second mark is to say that we're going to multiply these and show how these cancel down. Okay, so you might want to show that these will cancel down like that, and then you're left with n take away 2 over n, okay, which is what was required here. Okay, so question 24b, the probability that both beads are white is greater than 0.9. Work out the least possible value of n. So here we need to make an inequality and then say what the least possible value of n is. Now, here I like to think of this like this: the probability that both beads are white, so that's one section, and then we've got is greater than, and then we've got the 0.9. Okay, so is greater than is your greater than symbol. Now the probability that both beads are white is given to me here, and they're telling me it's greater than 0.9, so the 0.9 will come here. So the 0.9 goes here, and we have n take away 2 over n on this side. Now, writing this inequality is your first mark. Your second mark comes when you've rearranged this so that n is on one side and everything else is on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. We've got n take away 2 is more than 0.9n. Now, if I was to add 2 to both sides, and I was to take away 0.9n from this side and from that side, I'm going to be left with 0.1n on this side. So 0.1n is more than 2. This is where you get your second mark, actually. Okay. Now, if you rearrange this and find what n is greater than, that's not a mark yet. We need to answer this question, work out the least possible value of n, and that will give us our mark. So here, we would have to divide by 0.1 on both sides, and that will be 2 divided by 0.1, that's 20. Okay, 0.1 goes into 2 20 times. So n is greater than 20. Now, if n is greater than 20, the least possible value of n, it's not 20, it has to be 21. Okay, and it's 21, not a decimal, because we can't have a decimal when we're counting beads. Okay, so 21, this is your third mark here. Okay, question 25. ABCD is a parallelogram. ABCD. ABE is a straight line, and AB to BE is 3 to 2. So ABE is a straight line, and this is 3 to 2. BC and ED intersect at F. BC and ED intersect at F here. AB is equal to A. So AB is equal to A, and AD is equal to B. Okay, that's there. Work out ED in terms of A and B. So ED. Okay, we can go this way. Give your answer in its simplest form. Now, you get your first mark by finding a vector here. So either going in this direction, BE, or going in the other direction, EB. Doesn't matter which way you go, that will be your first mark. The second mark is to then add this to the B there, and then the third mark is to correctly simplify all of that. So here we know that AB to BE is 3 to 2. So B to E, so the vector B to E, that's right, BE, is going to be well, if I was to divide a by 3 and then times it by 2, that will give me the vector BE. So divide a by 3 and times it by 2, that's 2/3 of a. So we're going to have 2/3 a. Now, what I need to do is I need to think about going in this direction. So I need to have the negative of that here. I need to have a negative a and I need to add b. Okay, so we're going to say take away 2/3 a, take away a, and add b. Okay, so that's your second mark. And the third mark would be to simplify all of this. So if I'm taking away 2/3 a, then I take away a full a. Now the full a with the common denominator here of 3 would be 3/3a. Okay, so take away 2/3 a, take away another 3/3 a, that's taking away 5/3 a. Okay, so it's negative 5/3 a plus b. Okay, and that will be a third mark there. Okay, question 25b, deduce EF in terms of AB. So EF is here in terms of AB. Now, here we need to think about, okay, we haven't really been given much information about where F is here, but we can see that here we have a triangle. Here we had the triangle EFB I'm talking about, and then EDA. Now these two triangles are similar. They have this angle that's common, and then as these are parallel lines and this is a parallelogram, this angle and this angle would be corresponding angles, so they'll be the same. So these two triangles are similar. Now be careful not to get the ratio wrong here, because we've been given a 3:2 ratio, but when we look at the triangle EFB and the triangle EDA, it's actually 5:2 that we're looking at, because this is 3 parts, that's another 2 parts, and that's all part of the bigger triangle. And then here we got the smaller part, which is 2. So it's 5:2 we're looking at. So we've already worked out what ED is, ED, and we want to find what EF is. Now, if I was to take ED and then I divide it by 5 and times it by 2, that will give me what EF is. So divide by 5 times by 2, that is 2/5 of ED. Okay, so if I was to find 2/5 of ED, that is my first mark. Okay, so if I know that that gives me EF, that's my first mark. Okay, and then I need to just work that out. So that would be 2/5 of, let's say B take away 5/3a. Okay, and then that, I don't think we need to simplify it because it's not telling us to. Okay, but we'll do it anyway. We're going to have 2/5 B and then take away 2/3 A. Okay, so I think it was 1 mark for this and a second mark for that, but just multiply this out. Okay, 2/5 times B is 2/5 B, 2/5 times negative 5/3A, well the 5's will cancel and we'll be left with 2/3 and then A there. Okay.